What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about a little Battlefield rumor. Originally, it was going to kind of be more of a joke, and then I read the entire thing, and it's actually quite something I think we should talk about. Some fears on if it can actually make the release window that EA wants it to make, and then these very massive expectations. I want to start the expectations because that's just where the kind of the joke came from. So at the end of this, they say that they want this to reach 100 million players. Now, that's the rumor. That's not EA coming out. I mean, EA obviously wants this to be big, and they've had corporate talk around it of like what they're, planning on doing with the franchise and all of these studios working in collaboration, right? But the rumor is they want this to hit 100 million players. And that's insane. It stems from the joke of like they set these totally, in my opinion, unrealistic expectations for these games and then play it like they can't believe it when it comes out and it doesn't do those things. They say, wait a second, we thought this was going to do 7 times what it did. I always forget which one, Battlefield 1, 5, or 4. One of those three, I think it was maybe 5 or 1, where I think they wanted it to reach like 20 million and it got to like 13, or it wasn't that bad, and the game did really well. It just didn't do as well as they thought, but it did insane numbers, and they called it a disappointment. I forget the exact numbers and the exact game, but hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. And that's always stuck in my mind, even though I can't remember it properly. It's always stuck in my mind where it's like, okay, even when these games do really well, they still complain and they say, well, it didn't reach what we thought it was going to reach. And to be fair, they kind of do that with a lot of things. Square Enix does that. Like, no Final Fantasy game will ever please Square Enix, right, in terms of sales. No Battlefield game. No, I guess even some of the sports games sometimes can't please EA. So it's always outrageous. But you also think about it and you say, okay, but how can they really expect to hit 100 million, right? It's like, to me, I wonder how they're going to count it, because like we know this Battlefield game supposedly is supposed to have like every single thing you can imagine in it, right? So you got like a studio and a part of the game that's just the multiplayer. You got just the story, so they are going to bring the story back, right? Then I think you have a studio just on its own doing a battle royale mode, and it's like, so do they plan on like all parts of this combined being able to get to that 100 million? Or I know I see a lot of people saying, okay, that very much confirms there'll be a free-to-play thing included, and I think that's probably the battle royale, right? Like literally, I guess like Call of Duty. To be honest with you, I don't pay attention. Like Warzone is enormous. I literally pay zero attention other than those like characters that they throw in. They're trying to become Fortnite or whatever. I see that on social media. Besides that, I see nothing. I understand that it's very big, and I think it's free to play, right? So maybe it's the same thing where, this Battlefield game, primarily single player, multiplayer. Now, of course, they really want the multiplayer. And then there'll be a free battle royale mode that is, kind of tied in, but it's a separate studio, and that's free. That's something that you'll just be able to do. And by the way, I don't see how you hit 100 million no matter what. A battle royale, no battle royale. That's a lot of people, and it's like, is it going to be mobile? Like, I feel like you have to kind of put it on phones in order for it to reach, like, I don't know how many games have reached 50 plus million. A handful. I can think of some, but not very many. So it's like, all right, do you put it on phones, and is that what gets you to 100 million? Ultimately, I still think it's wildly unrealistic. It's actually why I believe the rumor, because that's exactly what EA would think to themselves in that boardroom, right? Where they say 100 million, that's a really strong number. It'll reach that. And you can imagine somebody saying that in the board. So I believe it's real, and I also believe that there's no shot in hell unless you count the battle royale separate. It's a free-to-play thing, and because I just don't think the base game, I think you should be hoping for maybe 10 to 15 million. If it does more than that, fantastic, but I wouldn't expect much more than like 20, 25, and that's going kind of crazy. Look, I do think people are ready for I think people have been ready for a long time, and Battlefield has really fumbled the bag going back to 2042 and even before that. I think people have been waiting for like Call of Duty to have sincere, legitimate competition, especially with their, again, like the Warzone stuff that I see online. People laugh at it. People are laughing at Call of Duty, and it's like, just imagine if there was a good competitor to it. There are competitions in the first-person shooter space, but they're all in like the battle royale, like Apex and things like that, and nothing that really Battlefield. Battlefield and COD. I mean, it's a war that goes back as old as time, right? So it's like I want both to be popular. I want both to be pushing each other. That's how you have that good competition. And for the longest time, Battlefield has given Call of Duty no competition, which, by the way, has killed Battlefield as a franchise. And it's also, I think, made Call of Duty weaker because it's got nothing to worry about, and that's lowered the quality of Call of Duty games. So that's just my opinion on that. The entire rumor, though, is something that's a little startling, so let me just read that real fast. So it comes from Battlefield Bulletin. Report from Ars Technica claims sources close to the upcoming Battlefield title have reported the project has faced cultural clashes, ballooning budgets, and major disruptions that have left many team members fearful that parts of the game will not be finished to player satisfaction in time for launch during EA's fiscal year before April 2026. According to these first-hand accounts, these changes have led to extraordinary stress and long hours, with people burning out and needing to take leave, and then it goes into the 100 million thing. So, and that's important. I mean, if that's true, and I think it probably is true, again, it's a big game, and also, like, it feels very realistic when I'm listing like 3. I think there's like 4 or 5 studios that are working on Battlefield. And as we know, even with like Call of Duty, right? Like the more studios and the more people, like this can happen, right? You think about it too. Like if each studio kind of has its own specialty, getting contributed into Battlefield. If only one falls behind, and how many times do studios fall behind? Every day a studio falls behind. Now imagine you have like a collective of like 5 working on one game, and you need to make sure that all 5, let's just say it's 5, all 5 are going to complete it on time. The odds of that, I think, are in the negative percentage, because it's like normally you can't even keep track of one. You can't even make sure one studio can do it, according to like what you want. You're going to try to do 3, 4, 5, 6 studios. There's no way. So that is not shocking. It's something that, and here's the thing, like I want the game to come out in the fall. I always had kind of thought it was, and I don't think so really anymore, actually, after seeing that. Do not put this out if it's not ready. I don't care how close it is to GTA 6 time. I know EA, they've actually said like they are worried about that, but I don't care. Like, we've said this before multiple times, multiple years, you cannot release this game not done. And when you have all of these studios and all of these components, I'm talking about all of it. I'm talking about the game. Now, the game is made up of all of these different parts to it, right? But I'm talking about every single element, every single part. You cannot have this game come out incomplete. You can't do it. Just like CD Projekt Red cannot release Witcher 4 like a Cyberpunk situation. They can't do that. You can't do it here either. You remember 2042. People don't forget that stuff. So you have to make sure it comes out well and finished. And if that takes till next fall, it takes till next fall. I don't care, because literally everything I just said. Like, Battlefield has destroyed itself over the last 10 years. Call of Duty, like, other games have gotten weaker, I think, because of lack of competition. Like, you need to make sure you're coming out as your A game. Otherwise, don't do it. Otherwise, don't come out at all. So it's not surprising, and it's just something that I hope EA looks at it and hey, you know what? Again, based off their expectations, if EA thinks that they can make 100 million players play this, which means they're going to make more money than they've ever seen in their life. The budget's ballooning. Who cares? Let it keep going, because at this point, the game's going to make you so much money, you might as well. I mean, yeah, obviously, you should get that stuff under control, right? And the crunch and the kind of long hours, I feel like, is also tied in where they're trying to get the game out in a certain time, so they're trying to overwork people, which it's like, again, just make the game really good. I think one of the ways you do that is not by overworking people and just let that release go a little bit, I do get it. Like, you don't want to release it in May, and this is till April, their fiscal year. So, you probably want to release it at worst in February or March. That's at absolute worst. You probably want to release it in November, to be honest. And if it can't do that, you release it in February, March, and again, if it needs more time after that, then you are probably in trouble, because you can't release it in May. You probably don't want to release it in June or over the summer. And you can't, if you don't need to delay the game 6 months, why would you? So I can understand how it's going to become a problem very, very soon. Like, I can see it, I'm not oblivious, and they're in a tough spot. But this is the way it is, and they got to figure it out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.